Pension plans in the UK are facing a potential crisis because of the rising cost of defined benefit pension schemes. Consultants such as Hamish Wilson suggest that this problem could be solved by more risk sharing between the employer and employee. Currently, pension plans in the UK are on two extremes that do not allow for this.
Under legislation knows only two types of pension schemes in the United Kingdom. It only knows schemes which provide a defined benefit, that is a benefit which is based on your service and your salary, and schemes which provide essentially money purchase benefits, which basically means you put your money into a pot and you get out of that pot whatever is accumulated in that pot, and it will buy whatever pension it can buy in the marketplace. So the individual's taking all the risks, the investment risk, longevity, the whole lot. Whereas in defined benefit schemes, the employer's taking all those risks.
The problem is that defined benefit pension schemes have an uncertain cost to employers. Legislation requires them to provide a level of indexation.
Defined benefit pension schemes have been misunderstood by government and by society as a whole. And they have become essentially a very big blank cheque, which employers clearly are running away from, which in the case of the United Kingdom, if the employer wishes to close that arrangement, it becomes a very big blank cheque because of the cost of buying it out with an insurance company, which necessarily means paying a third party to do what you are already doing, also accepting a completely different investment strategy effectively, whereas you might have been entirely invested in equities and hoping that equity would pay off. An insurance company is undoubtedly going to be invested in gilts and will be taking a very safe view about reinvestment returns and also longevity, all of which means a mega cheque if the employer wants to throw in the towel. So that's what's unsatisfactory about defined benefit schemes. The cost has gone up enormously, and it's become incredibly volatile, and most employers see no end. And they look rather enviously on defined contribution arrangements where the deal is, here's what I can afford, that's the end of it, do with it what you will, the result is entirely of your own making, and don't come back to me if it's a bad deal in terms of how you've managed to manage that money.
Hamish Wilson suggests there must be a way to make pension schemes more efficient and desirable for both employers and employees. He suggests that entrusting the schemes to trustees would allow the pains and gains in employee pension plans to be more evenly distributed.
There must be a middle way which basically says let's respect the employer's intention of providing a sum of money and let that be the limit of his debt. Let's find a more efficient way of allocating those monies in between individuals that does not leave them exposed to the market and require them to essentially be active investors when most people are not. And let's find an efficient way of distributing that money, such as not to involve a third party and all the distribution costs that involves, as well as profit margins and contingency margins, etc. And let's give that sum of money to a bunch of trustees. Let the employer since he's giving that money, he obviously wants something in return, and it would be not unreasonable for him to say, well, I would like a retirement age, say, of 65. I would like the accrual rate. I'd like it to be a career average type pension arrangement whereby the individual clocks up a certain amount of pension based on his pay for each year, so that there's some certainty involved there in terms of the retirement income. But we can't promise indexation because we don't know what the markets are going to do. Most of the things which can turn the whole thing upside down are completely outside my control. That's the employer's control, such as reinvestment returns, longevity, and inflation. And so, trustee, here's a slug of money. These are the parameters I'd like you to work within. It is your job to allocate it to the beneficiaries in such a way that you remove that lottery effect and achieve efficient distribution, and at the same time an efficient capital market, because the trustees are going to manage the money in professional way with professional advice, and they will be changing investment strategy from time to time, all of which must be good for the economy.
Hamish Wilson says legislation should be amended to give employers the choice to use the scheme most suitable for them.
Employers should be free to choose defined benefit, defined contribution, risk sharing, whatever suits their needs. It's perfectly reasonable for an employer to say, my business is like this, it needs that kind of pension scheme to support these kinds of behaviours. Therefore, I want to have freedom to choose whatever is appropriate. At the present moment, I don't think we've got that freedom of choice because the defined benefit scheme is so heavily regulated that nobody in their right mind would sign up for one.
The Association of Consulting Actuaries recently proposed a bill to give a fixed cost to pension schemes in order to solve the problem with the defined benefit pension schemes. The bill was turned down, but the government has committed to issue a full consultation paper about risk sharing in June and report back in autumn. But Hamish Wilson and others would prefer more immediate action, and if risk sharing is not implemented, it could cause future friction in the UK.
If it doesn't work out at the present moment, then I think you're going to have, I think the Association of Consulting Actuaries have identified that there are only, out of a workforce of something like 26 million or thereabouts, of which obviously a good proportion of that are public sector, who enjoy defined benefit pension schemes, for which the taxpayer is footing the cost. So then you've got broadly half of that 26 million in the private sector, and the Association of Consulting Actuaries have identified that something like only 900,000 of maybe that 12 million employees who are currently benefiting from a defined benefit pension scheme. If we don't find a middle way, then that number is going to go in one direction and one direction only, i.e. down. And that basically means that all employers are going to shift to defined contribution arrangements. So then you'll have a society in the United Kingdom where you've got the private sector in defined contribution and the entire public sector in defined benefits pension schemes. And I just don't think that is politically acceptable and is sustainable. And so hence there is a political immediacy or expediency in terms of finding this middle ground that would actually meet everybody's needs and allow the public sector to continue to enjoy their defined benefit pension schemes.